Welcome to Property Guide, powered by Property Now. I'm Faye D'Souza. As you can tell, we're not in the studio this week. In our attempt to help you understand how your city is being run, we're going to run a series of interviews on this show, introducing you to the managers of your city. Because if you look at it, if you are a home buyer or a home investor, a well-run city will attract better investment. Better investment will mean more jobs. More jobs will mean the prices of your homes go up. It's important then to understand the vision of the people who are running our cities, which is why this week we're sitting down with the Pune Municipal Commissioner. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you here. If I may call you Kunal.
Yes, please.
I'm going to start off with the big question that everybody's asking, and that's the ease of doing business question. We know that on a global scale, India doesn't rate very well right now. Out of, I think, 189 cities, simply in permissions and the ease of doing business, from a construction point of view, India altogether as a country falls at 184, which is not great. But the central government is looking at grading each state now on the ease of doing business. Is this something that Pune is looking at specifically as a city, something that you want to tackle on the city level as well?
Yeah, in fact, if you see the kind of place Pune today holds in the entire business scenario in the country, we are a city of close to $1,000 billion of GDP, and we are fifth, I think, in the per capita ranking as far as GDP goes in the country. So there's a lot of investment, there's a lot of opportunity and employment already happening in the city. Specifically, you're mentioning about the construction permits. I mean, to mention this, in fact, Pune has been a pioneer in doing some revolutionary things as far as construction permits goes.
Tell us what.
It's like doing a complete paperless inflow of the entire proposals and sanctioning and the entire thing, which started from Pune and has been now replicated in many other corporations. In fact, the state government and the national government has taken note of it. We've also gone ahead and replicated this auto DCR concepts in
Explain to us what the auto DCR concept is.
Auto DCR essentially is a process in which the architects and the builders can submit plans online to us. The process of entire inspection of the plan and whatever happens online, there are stages at which the file moves online to various people, and we, in a given time frame, are able to grant them permission through the software. So essentially the discretion is minimized, the actual tracking of the file becomes possible, and there is a lot of transparency in the way the thing gets done.
What is the average time between that filing happening and the actual clearance coming through?
Yeah, so the average time could be anywhere between 45 to 60 days. And in fact, I'll be very happy to tell you that we have now imposed a Service Guarantee Act in the city. So we are now guaranteeing to the citizens that if you do not get the permission within 60 days, the officer gets penalized, and there are penal provisions which get invoked. So essentially, yeah, so we are in a system where 60 days is the maximum that construction permits do take.
Our understanding is that environment clearances are taking a really long time in Pune. In some cases, take up to 2 years. And builders have spoken to us and said that it causes them 25–30% an increase in project cost, which eventually gets passed on to the customer, which eventually leads to homes being what customers are calling unaffordable right now. Are you looking specifically at environment clearances? Yeah,
so environment clearances is one aspect which, again, as I said, there are certain aspects which fall outside the purview of the municipal corporation. This is one of those things, apart from the clearances that are required from the Forest Department, from the Air Force and all the other agencies. So if we are able to build in the requirements of environment clearance within our own development control regulations, then there would not be a requirement to go again to a different agency and do it. So what we need to work on.
Technically, then environment becomes a center subject, doesn't it? So how would you work out that system? Tell us how you make that.
So essentially, if it requires that you need to have a STP, a sewage treatment plant, for say a building complex which has a X number of flats, and if the person has to go to an environment department to get a clearance to do that, if I can build that into my development control regulations within the city development control regulations. So
you keep saying if I can do it. So what's standing in your way? Why is it taking time? How long will it take to get done?
The development control regulations are framed every 20 years. We are in the process of framing it now. So I'm saying if we are able to do it, because this is the time that we have to put our foot in the right direction. and we are in the process of finalizing it in the next couple of months. So once the development control regulations for the core areas of Pune is finalized, we should be able to solve a lot of these issues for the developers.
Okay. The other thing I want to bring up, and I'm going to come back to it, I mentioned it, the question of affordability of homes. Now, we were looking at the numbers. The average rate per square foot of homes within the PMC area, which is the area that you look after, is still higher than the rest of Pune, perhaps making the rest of Pune slightly more attractive because also of the IT, the IT hubs that tend to be on the outskirts. Is there anything you're doing from, the municipality point of view to sort of bring down the rates of housing, to sort of make housing more affordable within PMC?
If you see, why do people come and stay in a particular location? It's just not because housing is cheap. It's just because, there's an environment behind it. There's a life, there's a quality of life which that city or the place offers. Pune offers a much more improved infrastructure. It offers improved security. It improves quality of life within the city. You have schooling. You have other aspects of life there. If you go to the outskirts, those elements will be slightly missing, which you go outside the Pune limits. So that's one obvious reason why property prices tend to be lower. Of course, land prices in Pune have also gone up. That's another reason.
Although people who live in the PMC region will complain about traffic and parking and transport, are these issues that you're specifically looking at?
Yeah, in fact, like all big cities, Pune has had in the last decade has had multiple fold growth in population and traffic. If you see the latest figures for Pune, more than one per capita is the number of vehicles in Pune. So if you want to really look at this traffic issue, we are working on multiple dimensions. Our first and foremost priority is to see that public transport picks up. So BRT is one of our projects which is about to begin. We are in the process of doing a metro.
How do you rate your success on BRT up till now?
Well, so far BRT has been kind of a first experiment which happened in 2006. That legacy, because of various reasons, because it was the first project in India at that time, and there were some issues which came and it was then abandoned. Subsequent to that, we have now...
There's also a bill that someone needs to pay for at this point for that abandoned project, right? Is there a problem there as well?
Well, that's not the case because the infrastructure still remains. We can start it again.
So
on
you
that.
can revive it?
Yeah, we can definitely revive it. We are actually reviving it on a different route, and that's happening this week actually. And then subsequent to that, we plan to take the BRT to about 100 kilometers within the city. If you see our mobility plan, which we did with a professional agency about 5 years back, Pune's traffic problems can be solved to a great extent by the BRT. There are extensive research which goes behind what I'm telling you. For example, if I say that today we are at 18% of public transport, we will be able to go to around 60% of public transport if we are able to do this 100 kilometers of BRT within the city. Then there is a metro which is in the plan, which again takes it to 60 to 70%.
Give me deadlines on both of these projects. When you say BRT and you're saying this week, how long before you expect it to be up and running in let's just say the first phase? What sort of deadline?
Yeah, so the first phase of BRT begins on the, which I say is this week. But then we, over a period of time, through the learnings that we get after the first phase and the second phase, we would like to extend it to 100 kilometers over the next 3 years. That's the plan. So the 3-year plan for 100 kilometer extension of BRT. Then of course the metro should be getting over by 2021.
I'm going to ask you a question purely as a citizen at this point. You mentioned that there was a study done by a professional agency on public transport in Pune 5 years ago that suggested that these are the solutions we should have. Why does it take 5 years before that study is actually actioned? What causes that kind of delay?
Well, if you see, there is a lot of political backing to the report which is also required. That political buy-in sometimes takes some time, number one. Number two is that the report is essentially a 30-year projection. So it's not that everything has to happen in the first 4 years. It's like the steps which are to be taken according to that report have to be taken on a sustained way in the next 30 years. So while we have completed some of those milestones which are there for the first 4 years, I'll agree to your point that we've not completed all the milestones. And there are a lot of agencies which are involved in decision making. That leads to delay. It should not happen. But we at least have to ensure that the milestones in the future do not get delayed because of all these issues.
Given everything you have on your plate right now, for a city like Pune that's, if we compare it on a national level, is maybe close to number one at this point, or in a close number two position. So that's a lot of work. What are the biggest challenges at your table?
There are essentially 4 or 5 major sectors where Pune today would really need to act very fast. One of them is what we discussed is transport and traffic. The second is housing. And that being a malaise with all the big cities of the country, the bigger the city grows, we have bigger populations living in slums. Pune has about close to 40% of its population living in slums. Though we have been in slum rehabilitation in various methods, yet that problem has not yet been solved to that extent. So housing is another area. Water is an area where we do not have problem of actually the supply of water. We have a problem of management and distribution of water. So that is another area where we really need to work very fast. And solid waste management, and because there is a beautiful river which flows through the city, to stop that river getting polluted, we have this big issue of sewage management. So I'll mention these 5 as being the topmost.
All right, let's go one by one then. We did talk about traffic and what you're doing. Let's talk about housing then. So from a PMC point of view, from actually preventing encroachments now on your hilltops that you've made them green biodiversity spaces, how will you prevent the encroachment? How will you convert the slums into proper housing? How will you actually build affordable or low cost housing? What are you looking at right now? What solutions do you have in mind?
So we essentially are one of the 4 cities in Maharashtra where we have separate authority for slum rehabilitation. Pune, Thane, Mumbai and Nagpur are 4 places in the state where we have slum rehabilitation authorities. Pune has been next to Mumbai, it's second to Mumbai in the state in creation of slum rehabilitation schemes within that ambit, and the other cities have lagged behind. While we have been second, we would like to go further. I mean, if you see the situation of 40% people living in slums. So a tweaking of some of the rules within that slum rehabilitation is required.
There does seem to be a really active builder community in Pune. If we drive, anyone who drives past Pune on your outer peripheral roads will see just constant construction that's coming up. And while there is a fair amount of absorption as well, is there any plan in place right now to turn these off, to sort of focus these builders' attention more on low cost and affordable, because they all seem to be staying in that 70 lakh to 1 crore rupee budget, or maybe a little lower than that. But that's not the target that you're talking about, where the real demand is. If you say 40% of your population is living in slums, is there anything you can do to sort of encourage them to focus on that space?
Yeah, so policy wise there are few steps that we have taken. For constructions beyond a certain size, it's been mandatory that 20% of that entire construction happens on a EWS, which is the economically weaker section platform. Plus this Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, which is housing for all by 2022, which essentially has 4 major components. One is the credit subvention thing. The other is there are 3 different ways in which housing can be taken up within this.
Have you had any success with that at all? So
well, that's just beginning.
Yeah.
That's just beginning. In fact, it was launched last couple of months back, and
yes,
the guidelines have just started to come in. So we would be very actively looking at using the window of opportunity which exists in the Housing for All scheme to be able to do that, to be able to solve much of this problem of slums in the city of Pune.
I want to combine these 3 problems. One, water. The other one, sewage and waste disposal that you brought up, and the third, electricity. If you have a city that's growing at the pace that it's growing, your plans will have to actually keep up with that pace. And are you, ready for the next 10 years of Pune?
Yeah, in fact, if you see, a lot of new ideas are getting implemented by all these government agencies. For example, this mechanism of the coordination committees that we have at the divisional commissioner level, and the coordination committees that we have at the municipal commissioners level, where cities issues in all, whether it's electricity, whether it's irrigation, because there's a river within the city, all of them get tackled at one place. Then, I mean, every department now has a vision for the city for the next 10 years, 20 years. So we are trying to keep pace with the development, and I hope we'll be able to do so in the future, unlike what have probably been our failures in the past.
There's a fair amount of argument in the press right now that PCMC and other portions of Pune are actually overtaking PMC in terms of attractiveness of doing business, in terms of the space that's available. A lot of the IT parks are sort of focusing outside of Pune. What are you doing to make, I know that, in terms of social infrastructure, Pune being the traditional hub offers all of that, but what are you doing to keep, focus of attention of business and of construction within Pune? And of people who, might decide to buy a house outside. There must be some sort of a competition strategy in-house that you have.
If you see, I mean, even today, what PMC is like, if you see the figures, probably the last year we did around 4,500 new development proposals, whereas PCMC would have done something like 1,300. So it's still 1/3 or even lesser than 1/3 of what Pune is doing. But Pune, while would be growing at a lesser pace than PCMC, so the percentage of rise in development proposals within PCMC will be higher. Because there's a lot of growth opportunities still there, and
I mean, the rate at which property prices have increased in PCMC has also been higher than the Pune municipal area as well. So from an investor's point of view, it might all seem more attractive. So what's the argument then for me to stay within the Pune Municipal Corporation area?
No, I don't agree with this fact that PCMC has had a higher property price
by
increase.
2%, but it has on an average.
No, I mean, we can still debate those figures because PCMC property prices are still considerably lower, 15 to 20% lower than PMC prices. And PMC prices, although now have become a bit stable, and because of the last 2 years of the market, probably have not risen that fast. But yes, PMC prices are higher, which is again a hurdle. But it's because of the the entire ecosphere which is behind the entire thing. So it's like the cultural center of Maharashtra. So it has a good quality of life, much better quality of life. So the challenge for us is to keep that happening. While we talk of smart cities, we have to see that the city becomes more livable. The city has more sustainable environment. So the city gets more infrastructure, not at the cost of the environment. And the city also has a lot more employment and opportunities coming in.
So let's talk about employment opportunities. Is there anything that you're doing to attract more, investment, to attract more business, to attract more job opportunities within the area?
Yeah. So if you see most of the investment which is coming into Maharashtra, the recent ones which are being talked about, the biggest one was Foxconn. That's also happening in Pune, which is nearby Pune. So essentially, PMC would not really be the area where this investment would come in within the city. The actual investment would happen outside the city, very close to the city. But what Pune does is Pune then provides the housing, Pune then provides the other peripheral support to those industries which happen just close to the city.
All right, we're going to take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about your smart city bit and what's in it and what your plans are for Pune. And also, before we go into break, if there's an investor or a viewer or a citizen of Pune right now who's watching, I'd ask them to send us an email with any questions they might have for you. And would you sit down on the show the next time and answer questions from citizens?
Sure.
All right, quick break. We come back, we'll talk about the smart city bit. Welcome back. You're watching the Property Guide, powered by Property Now. We're in conversation with Kunal Kumar, the Pune Municipal Commissioner. Thank you for talking to us. I want to ask you about your smart city bid. We know that the applications have gone in, and now you're getting, your presentation ready for round 2. You ran a very interesting contest in Pune, and I read through some of those ideas that your citizens gave you, and they were fantastic. Tell us, A, how you came up with the contest and what the brightest ideas were in that contest.
So we essentially came out with this idea that we have to have a vision community in Pune. So we floated this contest idea primarily with 2 objectives. One was to take the smart cities mission, this idea of smart cities mission to the people. And the second was to generate a lot of their enthusiasm and this thing through the ideas. So we actually got tremendous response. I mean, over a period of 1 week, we had 5 lakh hits to our website. Tell
us about the ideas that you got.
Yeah, so some of the ideas were related to the construction and debris waste management. Most of the ideas which came in were for transport, essentially. Because
and a lot of technology-driven ideas.
A lot of technology-driven ideas. And what we need to do now is keep this going. So now that's what I was talking about, is the vision community thing. So we'll keep this idea generation going. We'll create a repository of ideas on the same portal that we developed. And then we're also trying to crowdsource projects. So wherein these ideas will be thrown open to the private sector, and they can then build projects on that. And through multiple ways, we can then see how those projects can be financed.
Your smart city proposal, does it also aim to solve those 3-4 main problems that we talked about? If you were to, I know you can't give us exact details at this point because it's still in process, but just tell us what Pune is focusing on in its smart city proposal.
Well, there will be 3 pillars essentially. One is the governance, which is one pillar. The other is the planning, and the third is the financing and the funding pillar. Essentially within the governance pillar, then we will have to identify those priorities which people throw up, and based on the priorities that people throw up, we will have to set up certain governance structures behind that also. So there's a entire idea of prioritizing projects, prioritizing sectors, and setting up governance structures to be able to deliver those goals which will be set in those sectors will fall in the governance category. We need to do a lot of planning. So the entire finance plan and how we're going to finance this entire infrastructure is going to be another major important aspect of our smart city plan. Besides all these three, we'll have to look at implementation structure.
So you obviously know what this city needs. What do you need in order to make this happen? What do you need from your citizens? What do you need from businesses that function out of Pune? What do you need from the state governments, from the political parties that work out? Pune is quite an active city that way politically. What do you need from the central government? What do you need in order to make all of these things happen?
So we need structures to be in place. For example, if I talk about using PPP, using private partnerships in areas of health and education, there are a lot of policy stumbling blocks. So there has to be clear policy guidelines from the state, from the center. So if there is a central or a state-driven approach that this is to be the template or this is to be a formula in which all the cities have to go through, that really doesn't work. That's been the past experience. So we need to have a lot of flexibility. And that flexibility and innovation.
Each city should be allowed to design things that suits that particular city.
So that is to some extent being taken care of in smart cities, and I hope that will be taken care in the future. And then help us in build our own capacity through various means. We will be using our resources, we will be getting into various agreements with agencies. The state and center seem to be ready now. And we as municipal corporations should be ready to absorb the maximum that we can get as support from the state and center. Policy, of course, needs to happen at the state and center level very fast.
What do you need from businesses that work out of Pune?
One objective is CSR. The other objective is coming together on a common platform to act as a research policy group. So
get involved.
Get involved. So suppose you're talking about ease of doing business. So it's a very, very collaborative effort, not only with business and government. Within the government, it caters to so many departments, and there are a lot of good companies working in Pune. If they come together, a lot of innovative ideas can happen within this.
We know the real estate industry has asked you for faster clearances, single window, get things done faster, we'll be able to finish faster. What do you need from the real estate industry?
We are now in the process of putting together a process in collaboration with the real estate industry, wherein even the entire system of getting NOCs from various departments will come on one single platform. So this construction permit thing will actually be one of those firsts, actually be one of the first in the country, if not the first, which will the corporation which will get actually all this thing on one common platform. So that will be a single window for construction permits, which is in the process and will be launching in the next 3 months in Pune.
Right, for citizens of Pune who are watching right now, if they want to get involved in your smart city project or in any of the things that you just talked about, how do they get in touch?
Well, they have this punesmartcity.in, so the website where they can keep generating ideas. The flow of ideas continues. There is this email punesmartcity@gmail.com. They can write to us on that. We are in the process of setting up booths across various slums within the city, so that people can actually go to the booth within the slum itself and then
if they don't
share,
have internet access.
Yeah, they can share their own ideas. At the same time, we'll have multiple panel discussions within the next 3 months. We will be having the media involving people through their own ways. The newspapers will be getting in through their own ways. Radio stations will be getting in, involving people in their own ways. So we would like people to come forward and engage with either of these processes in whatever field they feel comfortable in, share their ideas, and help us create that foundation for our smart city plan.
Right, Kunal, good luck to you for your entire smart city plan. And like I said, if you have questions for him about anything to do with Pune, write to us. There's an email ID at the bottom of your screen. We'll have him come back on the show and answer your questions for you. Thanks for watching.